Hi, I'm Dave.
And I'm Jennifer. We are a middle-aged couple with a Regal Unlimited subscription and a deep and abiding love for movie theater popcorn.
And we are not associated, recognized, or legitimatized by the Regal Corporation in any way. We just happen to live near a Regal movie theater. So we're making a video for every movie we see in 2025 together. Sometimes when we see separate movies, because I watch horror movies and she doesn't. But we went and saw a movie together tonight, a movie we were both excited to see, called, well, look at her shirt.
My Wonder Woman shirt.
Yeah, it was called Superman.
Yeah.
No surprise to anybody who saw the title of this video.
Yes. So usually, we record these videos, but, we talk about the movie on the way home. And I asked for us not to talk about our impressions about the movie on the way home. So Dave explained some comic book references that I didn't get, or I didn't get the resonance of. But otherwise, we didn't talk about our impressions of the movie. And I asked for that because I think we saw different movies.
So there's only one possible explanation for this, which is that we both loved this movie so much and thought it was just a total game changer for superhero movies, and think this might be the best movie of 2025, and we didn't want to spoil the surprise when we say that to each other and then laugh and kiss.
No.
Oh well.
No.
Because I honestly do think all those things about this movie.
I think there are a lot of people that think that. I had been trying desperately to avoid the internet for avoiding impressions about this movie. And I saw more than one person that said something very similar and talked about people clapping in the audience and people enjoying the movie. And James Gunn does not speak to me anymore.
Not at all.
I feel like
Oh my
Guardians
God.
of the Galaxy, I adored that movie.
One of my favorite movies of all time.
I feel like that was a game changer for superhero movies, and was funny and just beats and beats and beats. And after seeing Suicide Squad
The
2,
Suicide Squad.
right, The Suicide Squad,
It's not Suicide Squad.
I was like, I'm never going to see a DC superhero movie again, because that movie,
and this,
I could not stand.
This is a woman who sat through the Snyder cut of Justice League.
Yeah.
Which is 4 hours long.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, didn't think it added that much to the movie that they actually showed, but I saw it. And yeah, this, I don't even understand. So please tell me what I missed as to why this movie is amazing.
All right. Well, so there are two reasons. I like Superman and I like James Gunn. So I like Superman movies. I always have. I liked Christopher Reeves. Christopher Reeve was Christopher Reeve's Superman back in the late 70s.
Yeah, I think the first movie
79?
is 78 or 79. Yeah.
Was very formative for me as a child. I loved it. I loved the idea of the Fortress of Solitude. I liked the alien angle. I didn't really get, the Miss Tessmacher stuff and the kissing girls and Lois Lane and all that, but I liked a lot of it. I liked the idea of Superman, and I think I've always kind of had the idea of Superman in my head as this sort of character who represents the power of compassion over brute strength. I liked the Superman movies I saw after that, including Man of Steel, which people have turned on. At the time, it was beloved. I still think it's a good movie. I do. I think there are parts of it that really still speak to me. I think that the ending where he kills Zod is really heartbreaking. And I remember the audience just applauding and cheering when he did it. It was like the worst moment in Superman's life. He had finally found another Kryptonian who was his peer, his equal, his partner, like a life partner, and has to murder him, against his own ethos. Superman doesn't believe in killing, but the choice was Earth or Krypton, and he chooses Earth. So I really liked Man of Steel. I think it's a very powerful movie. I think a lot of people dislike it because it's dark and gritty, and I get that. So when James Gunn said he was going to make this new Superman movie and it was not going to be dark and gritty, I was very excited for the prospect. This movie absolutely blew my doors off. I loved. I also loved the Suicide Squad. I'm sorry, but
I know
really
you did.
loved it.
Yeah.
I love Peacemaker. I like what he does. Like I said, Guardians of the Galaxy, one of my top movies of all time, as a science fiction fan. So I am a little shocked, but not totally shocked because I remember your reaction to the Suicide Squad. But I'm a little shocked that you didn't find anything in this movie that you liked.
I found it very disjointed.
Sure.
Right? So I think we're going to try to avoid spoilers in this, which will make some of the things I didn't like about it become impossible to talk about. But I feel okay saying at the beginning of the movie, it starts in media res. It starts in the middle of something. And it explains what comes before it on the screen.
That's not great.
For me, that is the sign that this is a movie that doesn't work on its face, because there's an interesting story that's on the screen.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, well, I have to tell you this backstory to make the rest of it make sense, as opposed to a movie that starts in the middle of action and the interesting part of the movie is unfolding why this action is happening and figuring out what the backstory is the purpose of the movie. That is not the purpose of this movie. Here's the backstory that you should know. That backstory should be like 3 other movies that I would want to see. And then this one would make sense. And so it starts disjointed for me and continues disjointed all the way through.
Do we want to go back and forth, or do you just want to talk and then...
No, I mean, we can go back and
Okay.
forth, right? So I said that piece, that's one thing about it that, like, from, like, hey, here are the credits, here's the first scene, I was already like, you're going to have to work to get me on this movie, and it didn't. There's other things I could say, but we can just react to each other.
I don't
instead.
think you're completely wrong about that. I
Yeah.
think that I dislike any movie that starts with opening titles because the filmmakers don't trust the audience to get what's going on. I do think there was a point to this one. I think that he was trying to say, listen, the DC universe is already in progress. This is not the moment when the DC universe reignites, right? This is absolutely a reboot for the entire franchise, but we're going to assume that you're okay with the fact that Superman's already an established person in Metropolis. We're not going to show you his origin story in this. We're not going to show you anything from Krypton. That, you know, and the bit about, 300 years ago, metahumans arrived on Earth or whatever. It's like, I think that's a reference to a movie that he's going to make in the future, but we'll see.
Well, that's exactly it, right? It's like there's a 300-year backstory to explain what's about to happen in the next 5 seconds in the movie.
Yeah.
And I wrote 6 sentences on the screen to explain that 300-year backstory. That 300-year backstory was pretty friggin' interesting because it basically tells me that the world that you're about to show me bears no relationship to the world in which I live,
Right.
because the past 300 years have been wildly different.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's because I'm a history person. I actually want to know that. Or if I'm going to be dropped in the middle of it, then that backstory needs to not be relevant. But the backstory is also relevant to the story that's presented to me. So, anyhow, that is not the only thing that tripped me up. That's just the first.
So just one more thought about that.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sorry to cut you
No,
off, but
it's fine. I don't
So-
really know where else to go.
I liked it because it put us in the context of that there is this universe that already has superheroes in it.
Yeah.
And that's, we're not going to spoil anything, but if you've seen the trailer, we can certainly talk about things people have seen in the trailer.
Mm-hmm.
And from the trailer, you will already know that there are other superheroes in this movie, there are other supervillains, that there are things going on in this movie that are not about Superman necessarily, although they end up being part of the story. There's an incredible moment later in the film, not a spoiler, but I want to say this, where Superman is having a very deep conversation with Lois Lane while other superheroes are fighting this extra-dimensional creature in the sky in the background. It's just, I laughed so hard. It was just great.
Right, and I laughed, but I didn't think that was great.
Okay.
right? I laughed because it was like, that's insane, right? And because it doesn't happen all the way through the movie. Like, if that were just Tuesday in this movie, then, like, fine. But it's not, right? Like, it's clearly unusual for, like, this kind of whack-ass stuff to be going on. But yet it's not unusual. Like,
it's not that unusual.
I don't know. Like, I just, I'm trying to think of how else I can talk about this without, like, wildly spoiling what's going on.
So you said that the movie was disjointed. I
Yes.
absolutely agree with you there. I think
Yes.
that tonally this movie is all over the map.
Yes.
There are moments of real darkness in this movie. Real, not even like gritty, edgy darkness, but just literally like, people die.
Yeah.
In horrible ways.
For no good reason. Because people suck. You know, like,
And there are moments, and people swear in this movie, right? This is not Christopher Reeve. This is a James Gunn movie. And there's real violence, and there's real gore.
Yeah.
But it's also an incredibly funny movie. And that worked in The Suicide Squad because the gore was there to be punchlines to all the comedy. I think here, I absolutely agree that there are moments where I'm like, we didn't really need the funniest line in the movie to be right after that bad thing happened.
Yeah.
That's, and that's something that people complain about Marvel movies about the quippiness, where there's never allowed to be a moment of actual, like, poignancy or emotion. I think this movie has a lot of emotion. I think it has a lot of poignancy. But you're right, it's sporadic, and the tone is all over the place. I'll give you that.
Yeah, I feel like the tone is all over the place. It's very... It wants to... I mean, this is a thing that I think people know about how people are talking about the movie at the moment. It wants to play on, Superman is an alien. He's, not human. And, should he be treated like other humans or be treated as a non-human? And it plays with that very, very much. And then yet falls into, like, ridiculous American versus the brown people of the world stereotypes. Sorry. I'll use this hand.
Sure.
At the same time. And I found that really hard to reconcile. It's like you want to create a movie with this, like, message, and you can't see that you, like, step on a rake and put the handle in front of your face of some of the same crap that I think you're critiquing. I don't know how to say it anymore besides giving away the entire plot of the movie. And I found that I don't even know how I was supposed to read that. I found that very tiresome. It's also a movie that has the benefit of having an infinity of money and the negative of having an infinity of money, because it's like we can do all these incredibly complex CGI fight scenes. And I find those, after a while, as much as I love to watch people get punched in a movie, I'm just like, these two characters are flying around and punching each other dramatically and then moving 6 blocks or moving into some other dimension or whatever and, like, hitting things. And there's only so many of those that I need. And there are a lot of those. And after a while, they're not differentiated. And it's like, there's a lot of CGI in this film. Some of it is necessary, right? Like, it's not physically possible to shoot what they're having the characters do, and what the characters are doing is important for the story, and they are meant to be these, extra powerful or have these otherworldly powers or whatever, and I get that. But after a while, it didn't seem purposeful. It was just like, oh, so what if we have this one do that? Wouldn't that be cool? And then let's try and write a reason to have that in the movie. Yeah, And when I start thinking about these kinds of movies in that way, it's like, you missed me. Like, for movies that really carry me along, yes, you have those moments where you have those fights and you have those really long fights, but I know why it's happening in the plot and it's meaningful, and there's enough of it that it's visually interesting. Like, yeah, the way this movie thinks about women is like insane.
Yeah.
And like uncool. Like, I mean, like not cool if we'd made this movie in 1978. Like,
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
So I had some real issues with this movie, and I think there are a lot of people that like it, and it missed
Including
me.
me.
Yeah, and
100%.
I think James Gunn kind of misses me, and
Yeah,
I might.
that's-
I don't know. I'm really into the superhero genre, and I'm a deep completist about this stuff. So as much as I'm like, I'm not going to go see the next one, I probably will end up seeing the next one, if nothing else, to have this same kind of conversation with you again in the future.
Yeah.
But this did not speak to me at all.
So James Gunn works for me.
Yeah.
I think that it's a total mess. I don't mind. And I think James Gunn is actually really funny. I think that like there were a couple lines in this movie where I laughed so hard I was disruptive to other people in
Yeah.
the movie theater.
Because no one else was laughing that hard, right? Like, yeah.
Sure,
And so
but-
like either people didn't get it as funny.
Yeah.
Or, I mean, there's always the people who don't get it as funny because they're there for whatever other reason. But,
Yeah, and I really enjoyed seeing some of these characters. This is absolutely so. It's what's interesting is that James Gunn has taken a lot of inspiration from a lot of different places. In some ways, this movie is the best hits of Superman, and the lowest lows as well, which is almost at Lois Lane. No, the lowest lows of Superman, but also some of the best hits. So you get some Alan Moore in here, and you're getting a little bit of The Authority, and you're getting like just crazy comic book stuff that I absolutely love. This is very much it's a love letter to the Silver Age of comics, which comic fans will understand what I'm saying. Don't worry if you don't. It was like the 70s in superhero comics was a crazy Wild West where comic books were just going out of business left and right, and so they just tried anything they could get away with, and so like just the craziest, most insane ideas. Jimmy Olsen got like an ongoing comic book of his own for a long time,
okay.
which is beloved.
Okay. I didn't know that.
Yeah, and you get things like you have Lois Lane being this ultra feminist icon in the same universe where you have characters who literally, female characters who literally cannot control their gonads around, redheaded boys.
Any male character.
Yeah, it's crazy. I think that it's absolutely drawing from the most anarchic part of comic books, and I like those comic books. Not all of them. I think there's a lot of trash in that era as well, but I think that, James Gunn is taking the good stuff. So we said we weren't going to do spoilers, except for what might be in the trailer. So you will have seen at least the character of Mr. Terrific in the trailer. What did you think of Mr. Terrific?
I liked him quite a bit, right?
So this is a character who's in the movie, and is absolutely one of the standouts of the film.
Absolutely. And there were... to say that overall I didn't like this movie is not to say there were not characters that I enjoyed. Nicholas Hoult, who I will watch read the names of the students in my classroom, like I will, because I you can't say I would have him read the phone book anymore because that doesn't mean anything to anybody, right? So whatever, a list of the most benign things you could possibly imagine. He could read that list, and I would believe that he, had taken ownership of it. He was great, and he had some great speeches as well. He was great, and he had some great things to say. The best speech in the movie comes from Superman's dad, right?
Yeah, we got.
Yeah.
I was so choked up in that scene.
Yes. And so, there are bursts and nuggets of really good stuff. But you were mentioning Man of Steel earlier. The thing about Man of Steel for me is there were some beautiful shots in that movie,
Mhm.
right? Just visually,
Yep.
that were just evocative of
Mhm.
like why Superman would enjoy flying, you know,
Yep.
like, and what that would feel like, and what
Sure.
the sun meant, you know,
Yeah.
in a visual way, not anyone saying it. And this movie had a lot of saying of what those things meant and what those things felt like.
And now that
And
you
it
say
wasn't
it,
so visually interesting.
I don't. Yeah, it's not the most visually interesting superhero movie,
Yeah.
which is fascinating.
Yeah.
I mean, you look back at the Guardians of the Galaxy movies, and they just had those backdrops, the planets that they would go to that were neon colors or weird jellyfish things or the dead god or whatever else.
There's something in every frame to look at, like
And
every part of the frame.
The big interesting setting in this one is something you saw 100 times
Yeah.
in Zack Snyder movies.
Yeah,
It's just,
and in other kinds of movies as well. Like, yeah,
yeah. It's true. I think that this movie is not perfect, but I think that it does actually represent a huge step forward for the DC universe, which has been struggling for so long. But we've seen that before, and I think that's the problem. Is like we saw it with Wonder Woman. So the first Wonder Woman movie, amazing.
I could watch that movie every day.
That's why she's wearing this T-shirt right
Love
now.
that movie.
And the
I'm
second
really wearing
second
this
one,
T-shirt because it was clean.
okay, second one pretty much trash.
Not pretty much, 100% trash.
Yeah.
It's like it was completely different people.
The first Aquaman movie, really fun.
Yeah,
An
yeah,
adventure story.
yeah. Not the greatest movie ever
But it
made,
was
but
fun.
but it was fun.
Second Aquaman movie,
Trash.
over. I don't know if it was trash, but it was overstuffed.
T-R-A-S-H,
It was overstuffed.
trash.
And we don't like overstuffed movies in this house. Okay,
Except when we do.
Except when we
you
do.
know, like yeah.
But I would say that, and so I'm not going to say that like James Gunn has saved the DC universe or something. That remains to be seen. But he's made a good movie. I enjoyed it. We're allowed to have different opinions.
Yeah. And it's unusual for us to have wildly different opinions. And I think the two directors that we have the most wildly differing opinions on at this point are Wes Anderson and James Gunn.
That's probably true.
Yeah.
I will say that when we walked out of the Suicide Squad movie, I was like, oh my God, I enjoyed that, and I know she hated it, and how am I going to, reconcile this? Because she's going to think I'm a bad person for liking that movie.
No.
This one, I think, you can see why I liked it.
Yes.
I can see why you didn't like it.
Yeah.
And I think that we can totally accept the fact and that we're both right on this one.
Sure.
Okay.
We don't
No.
we don't have to be both right. That's not the
All right.
point, right? Like for me,
Neither of us is wrong.
Yeah, neither of us is wrong. Like we have our impression and our interpretation, and two people can have different interpretations,
Yes.
and this is not a situation where there's a right or a wrong, right?
Okay.
But yes, we would give different recommendations about this movie. If you were to ask me, like someone should see this movie in the sense of, I think it has cultural relevance at this moment,
Yeah.
and I think a lot of people are going to see it, and so therefore you should see it, and I'm glad I saw it. Like I can therefore be an informed part of this discourse, but I otherwise, like, why, except Nicholas Hoult, always watch
so
Nicholas
good,
Hoult.
so good as Lex Luthor. I think he brings so much to that character. Jesse Eisenberg as Lex Luthor always just bugged me so much.
That was just a
wanted
crime
to
against
punch him.
humanity. That was a crime
Which
against
I
humanity.
think was the intention, right? He was supposed to be punchable.
Lex Luthor
but-
is not supposed to be punchable. He's supposed to be literal evil.
Well, he's evil, but at the same time, he's evil that's kind of convincing. Like, there's a certain point where you're like, yeah, I mean, he's wrong, but he's got a point. Like, he's wrong about Superman, but only because Superman is supernaturally good. Like, if Superman was a mortal with mortal, failings and ethics, then, yeah, Lex Luthor would be kind of right.
Oh, I mean, superheroes in general are like a wildly fascist, ridiculous fantasy
Yeah.
of like way too much power and all this power in the hands of one person. And our current fetish for superhero movies is why we are where we are in American politics. Like they have corroded our sense of
Yeah.
anything and led us to this idea that there is one man who does all. Like, so yeah, like superheroes are horse doodle
Yeah.
and culturally dangerous. As much as I enjoy them and engage in them and have kept Marvel afloat with the amount of money I've spent on movie tickets to see every stupid Marvel movie in the movie theater, with the exception of Kraven the Hunter and Madam Web and the second Thor movie, right? Like, those are the only ones I didn't pay money to see. But the message behind all of them is whack.
Yeah.
And Superman is a number one for that, right? I mean, Superman is like, in the Christopher Reeve movies, is the embodiment of America. Like, it's not just the goodness of humanity, but the embodiment of America and America's awesome place in the world. And this movie doesn't address that, doesn't take it in that way, because it's 2025 and that's not how we do.
So I think that when Superman movies and stories are good, they are a corrective to the problem of superheroes. And I think that this movie actually does go there. And maybe you didn't buy it, but the speech that he has when he and Luthor meet face to face, I think is James Gunn and Superman saying, listen, we know that this idea of like Ubermensch who are gonna, just take over the world, and which a character even says that in the movie, like it's their world now, the metahumans world now. And Superman has a speech in this movie where he says, you're not wrong, but and I loved that speech. I think that it absolutely, I hope that he gets to make that speech to Batman at some point. I hope that they get to wrestle with this tension at some point in this new universe,
without resolving it by
I'm not looking
your mom's
for,
name is Martha too.
Right. I'm not looking for that kind of nonsense. I'm not looking for didactic philosophy in my superhero movies, but I would like to see the questions being asked, and I think this movie does actually ask that question, and it gives you kind of an answer. So, and I think that's the power of Superman. The Superman in the end says, we have this incredible power that can be used for evil, but it can also be used for good. And we have to choose to do it for good.
Yeah.
And I think that's the message of Superman. So I think this movie works. You don't.
Yep.
That's okay.
Yep.
All right. We can't say anything more without spoiling
without
the movie,
wild spoilers.
So we're going to stop there.
So talk to us at some time, and we'll be happy to tell you all the little details that we had opinions about.
Absolutely. All right. Until next time.
Bye.